Hello and welcome to the Shark Source podcast. I'm joined today by Shaedon Shergill, as usual on the podcast. And it's been a really long time since I've uploaded a podcast, but I've just gotten busy and whatnot. But we're back today, and we've got a lot of topics today. So, Shaedon, we're gonna start with the trade. Arizona acquired Nick Schmaltz from the Blackhawks in exchange for Brandon Perlini and Dylan Strome. What are your initial thoughts on this trade?
Well, when I saw it first, I was like, what's possibly going back the other way to Chicago? And when I saw Strome, I knew people were gonna think Chicago was gonna win the trade, but for me, the reason why Arizona wins this trade is because Strome has not been he's not producing like the third overall pick he was supposed to be. He's playing in the fourth line in Arizona. I think he only has like 6 points. He isn't producing. Now, sure, putting him with the breakout could work, but putting former teammates doesn't always work, and this isn't the OHL, okay? Strome does not deserve big minutes. He needs to earn them. A similar situation like Puljujarvi is facing here in Edmonton. Now, Perlini is a good winger for Chicago, but he's inconsistent. He could be a decent 30-point guy, but I just don't know where he plays on our roster. Schmaltz is having I wouldn't say a bad start, but not a good start to the year. But he got 50 points last year, and Arizona needs some more scoring from their team. Adding another top 6 forward would really help this young Yotes team out, and I feel like Schmaltz can really excel in Arizona.
Yeah, I think I sort of got to disagree. I think Chicago won this trade. I think Strome still has potential. I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but I think it's fair to say that there's something wrong with the Stromes because both of them have sort of been busts so far, at least.
Yeah.
Both Ryan and Dylan Strome, and they've both been very high draft picks. And I think there's a third Strome brother. I'm not sure if he's drafted yet or if he already was drafted.
Yeah, he got drafted behind Philly.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's going to turn out the same way, but I think that it's going to be interesting to see who won. But John Chayka had an interesting quote. He's the GM of the Coyotes, if you're not familiar. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have the direct quote, but it was something along the lines of, there's a difference between patience and hope is not how you build a good hockey team. So what he's saying is there's a difference between being patient and waiting for Strome to develop and just hoping Strome will develop. And what he's saying is that there's not really room to be patient. They were just hoping he would improve, and he doesn't believe that's going to happen. So immediately, I think the Coyotes get better because Nick Schmaltz, I think, is a better player than Perlini and Strome right now. So immediate impact, I think the Coyotes get better. But for the Blackhawks, they could end up being way better if Strome turns into anything close to what his potential is. I mean, he's a third overall pick. So if he turns into anything like what they hoped he would be, then it's a big win for the Blackhawks. But for the Blackhawks who are rebuilding this year, I think it makes total sense because they're pretty much not going to make the playoffs this year, even though it's already only November. So I think that, it's a good move for them. And for Arizona, who is not doing very good right now in the NHL, even though they're supposed to be doing better, it's you might as well just try and get better.
I feel like the biggest thing in this deal is Strome. It's either high risk, high reward. And Strome is going to be the main talking point of this deal. If Strome doesn't get his game together in Chicago, Arizona wins the deal. If he doesn't, or if he does excel like Max Domi is doing in Montreal, which no one expected that to happen, Chicago wins it. So once again, I'm on the fence, but right now, say Arizona wins it.
Yeah.
And what other thing? I don't what is it with John Chayka, Stan Bowman, and Ron in Carolina trade with each other? It seems like every time they make a trade, it's always with those 3 teams.
Yeah.
I never get that.
Yeah, I think I think that John Chayka, the Domi trade, that seems like it was a very bad trade the way Domi is performing right now, even though Galchenyuk hasn't been terrible. But, I think I think when it comes to John Chayka, he is on thin ice because he's made a lot of poor decisions, and as much as everyone likes analytics, I don't think he is the guy for the job unless this trade really works out. Maybe Nick Schmaltz continues to improve, but if you take him away from the already, some of their good forwards, I don't think he can get too much better. It seems like this is his ceiling. So I don't think he has very much time left. And as a nice transition, there's a GM in the NHL who just ran out of ice, Ron Hextall in the Flyers.
I was surprised that Hextall got fired because I forgot the last time a GM was fired midway through the season. When Hextall got fired, I was hoping that Mario was even wrong as Hackstall, but I think it's the wrong move for the Flyers. Do you think Hackstall should be fired after what he's been doing for the last couple years? Because really, every time he's made the playoffs, they always get bounced in the first round. It looks like his team is going nowhere. Tied for 22nd in the NHL, which is not good. When you have guys like Giroux, Gosper, Voracek, all these young players, great players, and you're underperforming.
I gotta say I like this move. I wouldn't mind it if they fired their coach Hackstall as well. I think firing their GM Hextall is a good idea, and the reason is he's been the GM of their team, and nothing changed when he took over. I mean, this team hasn't done anything since 2010. I can't remember the last time I was genuinely, concerned about them doing good. They're pretty much their team highlight since they went to the Cup final was when they eliminated the Penguins. I mean, in the playoffs, I think 2012 was the year when that happened. It's just really ridiculous. Giroux is one of the most underrated players. He was second in the NHL in points last year, and they're just wasting his prime. Same with Simmons and same with Voracek, and it's just ridiculous. I think the reason that firing the GM was the right decision is that no matter how many coaches you can go through, the GM never got a new goalie. And they went out and they got guys like Elliott. They need a real legit goalie, and they need to move big pieces to get him. But they can't just keep coasting with these terrible goalies and letting goaltending ruin their chances.
The thing is that he did have a good goal. He wasn't good back then, but now he's probably going to be one of the biggest UFAs on the market after Bobrovsky. If they just kept Bobrovsky, who knows what would have happened in 2010? 2010 and maybe even before, right? If he just kept Bobrovsky.
Yeah, well, I don't think they had him in 2010, but yeah. If they had kept Bobrovsky, things might have been different. But it's just starting to, you can't just expect to do well without a goalie. Goaltending is still very important in the NHL, and whether or not you want to pay for a goalie by giving up prospects, well, that's up to the GM, but you're not going to do well without it. And I just think that it was the right move and it had to happen. But so it seems like most people don't think that it was a good move, just based on the reactions I'm seeing on Twitter and whatnot. Okay, so now we're going to move on to more personnel changes. There have been a lot of coach firings in the NHL this season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been difficult to even keep track of the coach firings. But, Shaedon, out of all of them, which of them were you most surprised about or most disagreed with?
Well, we start with it was like on a school day. I woke up on my TV and said Quenneville has been fired. When Quenneville was fired, I didn't know how to feel about it at first because Quenneville had so much success with Chicago. 3 cups in 6 years. Sure, they were like on a 5-game losing streak at that time, but I don't think Quenneville was part of the reason why the Chicago had a huge slump last year and this year. I feel like some of that was because of Crawford getting injured, even though I feel like Forsberg played as well as he had to. I feel like this lies on Stan Bowman's head because he traded Panarin for a guy like Saw. He keeps bringing back old Blackhawks. Like you're not just because you're bringing back former members doesn't mean you're gonna win the 2015 Cup again, right?
Exactly.
Like he just screwed himself the cap, like giving Taves $10.5 million for. I get he's a good sentiment, but for a guy that gets just 55 points a year, I get he's a great two-way guy, but 10.5 is a bit of a is a massive overpay. I definitely think he screwed himself with those 2 contracts for another 5 years. Then he has Brett Seabrook on an albatross subcontract. He says, and he's someone who's been doing nothing this year. Like, a lot of these contracts are affecting Chicago, and that's one of the main reasons why they probably traded Jarvis to Yotes. Like, I don't think the Chicago can do more trades unless they get back a younger player and they trade so huge cap hit. And when they do, they're not going to get much back. So, the only hope they have to make the playoffs is if Corey Crawford plays stellar. So, going back to the Big Hughes thing, like, it's not his fault. I really like Coach Q. He's a great coach, and I do think that he fired the wrong person there.
I sort of agree. I do think Bowman's got to go. The Blackhawks remind me of the Giants in baseball, constantly bringing back guys who were really good a few years ago, but you can't win today with guys like that. And, Taves and Kane got extensions after they won the 2015 Cup, and they both have no trade clauses, but I'm wondering when will they ever be successful with those guys as part of their core? It's really just I'm just wondering because they aren't doing good now. Crawford is back, and they're still pretty mediocre. I think they're second last in their division, just above St. Louis. It's just beginning to. He's running out of time, so. I think they had to change something, so firing Quenneville is a change, but I also think Stan Bowman's got to go.
Yeah. I think Bowman's was on thin ice, I think that Schmaltz trade he wants to inject youth and depth, which I agree that Chicago needs more young players, but they already traded a guy in his trust to Arizona, so they had they had no prospects anymore. They traded all the first round picks from 2010 and 2014, and the only guy they have now is Yoki Haru, who is a good defenseman, but would you trust him with top 2 ice time at his age?
Yeah. I don't know, but it's this trade. I think it could be a good move. We'll just add the whole Perlini Strome trade. We're just gonna have to see how it plays out. So we've sort of bounced around the topics, but I do want to get to my coach, who I was sort of most surprised. I wasn't surprised, but this is one I'm mixed feelings on it. We had to mention it with Shaedon being from Edmonton, the Todd McLellan firing in Edmonton. It seemed like they had to change coaches, even though they needed to change. Even though GM is the more pressing issue, they still have talent-wise a pretty good team and the best player in the world. So they should be doing better, even with the very bad moves the GM has made. So I think Todd McLellan, it just wasn't really a fit in my opinion. and we'll see where it goes from here. Bringing in Hitchcock, I'm really not sure why they did that, because he's going to be out again. This is only a temporary thing. I think they should have found their permanent guy, but they just got Hitchcock, I guess, to finish out the year. But that sort of sends a message like they're giving up on the season already when you are already bringing in a temporary guy. I would have looked for a more permanent solution, but they made the decision that they made.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that one? Being an Oilers fan and everything.
I think after the first 2 games of the season, where Edmonton was 0-2, we were playing horrible. I think everybody was fed up with Todd and the room. And Cates actually went down to Madison Square Garden, where Edmonton's going to play their next game. And Freeman said this, that it was a really tense place. It was such a bad place to be in at that time. And somehow we found our groove at the end of October, where we had a really hard schedule, and we were like 3rd or 2nd in the division. And it just all fell apart after that. Talbot lost his confidence again, and now he's our backup now. I think Costin has outplayed him. Then, after that 5-6 game losing streak we had, Todd did Todd things and put Drysdale back with McDavid, and that really, that I was done after that, because you're paying Chiarelli is paying $8.5 million for a guy who's playing Connor McDavid, who drafted their second-round center like a Falcon counterpart, and you see there with McDavid.
Yeah.
Then came the Calgary-Vegas thing. That Calgary loss was just terrible. He didn't show up in the 3rd period when he had a 2-goal lead, and when Calgary did score the 3rd goal, he kept putting Lucic out in the first line to make an impact. I get it. It was a great battle in Alberta. The first period, 2nd period was probably the best hockey I've ever seen. Tons of hits, tons of scrums, tons of fights. But the fact is that you're down by 1 in the 3rd period when you lose a 3-goal lead to a young Calgary Flames team that just has so much youth. It has an amazing, incredible depth. You're putting Lucic out there when Kachuk is just bearing chance after chance, setting up plays. You shouldn't do that. And Todd just kept putting him out there. He kept putting Cass out there. He didn't give any of our young players a chance. Then the Vegas game, right? He practically did the same thing. After Vegas made it 3-2 and we had a 2-1 lead, he kept putting Lucic out there. He's putting ineffective players on the top lines. And when he does that, we have no chance to win. Guys like Kachuk has 8 goals on the season, is buried on the 4th line of his team, because he's giving these overpaid veterans who aren't doing anything, who has no confidence, and he's putting them out there in an ineffective role. And I do think that Vegas game, or that Calgary, had a breaking point. Hitchcock, he plays a great defensive game, and I like that. But that LA game last night, Edmonton has a lot of learning to do with Hitchcock, and I don't know where this is going to go, because that San Jose game, which I'm pretty sure you watched, I thought we played okay, not great. We still gave up a goal in the first 45 seconds, but I think Hitchcock is really going to push these Oilers players for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that San Jose game, because with all these coach firings, I think we have to, and this is the Shark Source podcast, even though we've pretty much talked no Sharks so far, we're going to talk about DeBoer, the head coach of the Sharks, and I think his future here, I'm going to reuse this, but he's on thin ice. I don't think he has much time left to prove himself, because everyone loved him after 2016, that cup run. It was really great, but it's been disappointing. And I know a lot of people might be saying, how can you possibly be disappointed when the Sharks are doing so well? I mean, they're in a playoff spot right now. But the point is, a team with as much talent as the Sharks have should not be second place to a team with no goalie, in the division. I mean, the Sharks should be running away with the conference, let alone
Yeah.
the division. So just added the disappointment of Carlson, who it seems like we really got bamboozled by the Sens fans, overhyping this guy as some amazing generational talent. He shows up and he's good, but he's nothing special. It seems like the only reason that he was overhyped so much was because the Sens had no other good players. But he comes to San Jose. He's on our third defensive pair right now. It's not even a question of whether or not he's better than Burns. He's not even as good as Vlasic right now. So, he's been just a colossal disappointment. And while he is improving lately, I'm glad we didn't sign him to a contract extension after the deal, because unless he continues to improve and really pick up his pace, I'm not sure if I would want to extend him. But that's just my thoughts on that. And while that is a personal thing, that's a player thing, I really think the Sharks need to get consistent, and I think coaching is a part of that. They go from a 4-0 shutout of the Canucks to getting blown out the next night 6-0 against Vegas. It's make up your mind. You got to play good hockey, and I don't know if I'm not calling for DeBoer to be fired, but I'm definitely saying it should be considered at this point.
I feel like goaltending is part of Baker's reason why the Sharks are doing as well, but you have to look at what also has happened in the last 2 years. Of course, losing to Vegas in Game 6, and where, in my opinion, the Sharks actually played pretty decent, except for that first game. I feel like they're in every game. But I feel like, I'm not going to try to get you triggered here, but, back in 2017 when Edmonton and the Sharks played, the last two, 3 games, actually, no, not Game 3. I feel like Game 2, Game 5, and Game 6, the Sharks were a no-show. Because in Game 2, you gave up 2 shorthanded goals in the same game, which should never even happen in a series. In Game 5, you have a 3-1 lead, and you lose that lead, lose an OT to David Darnay. Then in Game 6, the only guy who scored for you is Marlowe off a nice rebound, and he's gone. And I get that the Sharks had a lot of injuries during that series. But except for Game 3, the Sharks were a no-show. They weren't even like a force out there. They were being laid back. And, I feel like during Game 6, during the third period for the Sharks in Vegas, the Sharks looked like they knew they were going to lose, so they're not even trying. So I think a coaching change should happen, but, I don't know if it should happen right now or maybe like 3 months, maybe after the All-Star break, because, since the All-Star game's in San Jose, I bet you for a fact that San Jose fans want DeBoer coaching at that time.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. We need to, all these past playoff failures are sort of contributing to the fans being upset. I'm sure teams like the Oilers, I'm sure they'd be fine with, making playoffs consistently for years. That sounds great compared to what they're going through. But the Sharks have done it so many times with so many different. Thornton and Marlowe used to be elite players. Now Thornton, while he's playing pretty good this year, he could be out of the lineup and we'd still be a good team. He's not our best player anymore. So we've still managed to be consistent in the playoffs, but we just keep getting disappointed over and over again. And I want to read a tweet. It's from Brody Brazil. Now, I'm sure most people outside of the Bay Area don't know who this guy is. He hosts Sharks post-game and A's post-game. So as a fan of both the Sharks and the A's, I see a lot of him. His tweet reads, "I'm not saying anyone is wrong or right or crazy or justified. This is just me starting an observation. Sharks fans seem to have a lot less patience this season for the team to find its way." Of course we have less patience. I thought this was one of the dumbest tweets ever. Now, he gave all that prefix, but that's all pretty much meaningless. He's basically trying to say they should have more patience, but I'm sort of sick of waiting. The Sharks made me look like...
But you guys just got Carlson, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were supposed to be way better, you know. Why should we be patient when he's on a 1-year contract? And when we gave up Tierney and DeMello, who are playing pretty well in Ottawa, you know, we can't be patient. Our best players are in their prime. You know, Meyer is not in his prime. He's still coming up, so that's great. But we need to win now, and I'm sick of waiting. And so that sort of ties into the whole, should the Sharks fire DeBoer? We don't have time. We've lost our draft pick this season to the Sabres for Kane, and then Carlson, I think we gave up a pick or something. I'm not sure how I know there's conditions. I used to know it, but I'm just sick of waiting, you know, especially when we're behind a team like Calgary, who's one of the most overrated teams in the NHL. They have no goalie. Yeah. The only reason they're good is because they play in the Pacific Division, which has shown is so weak. You know, it's just frustrating.
Like, I feel like Doug Wilson's easily a stay, but I think what puts the salt in the wound more to the Sharks is how great Tom Ashabol is playing right now.
Yeah, that's tough.
You know, so I think Erik Karlsson will heat up at some point, but right now he's been disappointed with the Sharks easily.
Yeah, you know, he's definitely been a disappointment, but we'll just have to wait and see, you know, what's going to happen in the future. I think they will improve, but we're going to move on. We're sort of going to, the major topics are sort of out of the way. We're going to talk about a very small trade pretty briefly. This was, of course, the trade. The Oilers traded a conditional 6th to the Sens in exchange for Chris Weidman. I don't know what the condition on the 6th is, but
I do.
So what is it?
So Edmonton actually signed Jakub Jerabek in free agency for 1 year and $1 million. He was a no-show during the preseason. He got put on waivers, and no one claimed him, so we just traded him to St. Louis for a 6th-round pick. And the 6th-round pick was a conditional, which was if Jerabek played 50 games with the Blues, we'll get a 5th-round pick instead. He's only played 1 game. Now he's in the AHL, so it's just that same pick that same Jerabek pick for Weidman. So technically, the trade is Weidman for Jerabek, and you know I think Weidman fits the Oilers well. He's a good puck-moving defenseman. He can play on the power play, right-hand shot. He's not good defensively, which is okay. We already have a guy like Larson who can do that. But the real question is, this leaves Matt Benning out of the fold. And my thing is that, does he get traded? Because, sure, he's a good offensive defenseman. Got 20 points last year, which was really surprising for me. But, you know, he's just been awful. He gives away so many chances. You know, he cost them some games a couple times, you know. So the question to me is Matt Benning on the block? He's getting paid almost $2 million a year for 2 more years after this to be a number 6, number 7. You know, there should be a team out there looking for a third-pairing right-hand defenseman that has some cap space that can use Matt Benning, and I wonder which team is that.
Yeah, it's possible, but you know there are a lot of replaceables for him. You know, if he gets pushed out of the Oilers by Weidman, then I would wonder how many teams are willing to pay that much and give up something to get him when there are replaceable guys for him. Many different teams, they might get him cheaper. But, you know, we won't know who won this trade until it could be years, because if Ottawa uses the pick, then we'll wait till whoever they pick. Probably nothing will happen because it's 6th round, but you never know. Or if they trade the pick for something, maybe if that guy's better. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one. It's November 26th. That means we have 4 days until Friday, December 30th, which is and then Saturday, December 1st. I can't remember if it's on or by December 1st. I think it's by, but Nylander's got to sign or he's got to sign a contract with an NHL team, or he has to sit out the entire year. And it's going right down to the wire. We're not sure if he's going to be on the Leafs. There seems like the Leafs seem to think he's going to be on their team, considering what their coach has said. But what do you think is going to happen? There's not much time for a deal to be done.
So there's been so many trade rumors, and of course the team that's been being mentioned the most is Carolina. Now, the piece most likely to move back, first of all, would be a defenseman. I think that's Brett Pesce, a right-hand guy, good defensively, but right now he's injured. And I doubt Carolina would want to give up Jacob Slavin. So Frieden said that they're working on Kipriel said that they're working on like a 6-year deal and a ballpark of $6.9 million. But with 5 days left, I don't see it happening. I just say just trade him, because if you can't get a deal in time, he's not going to play. And if I'm Nylander and I don't sign Toronto on December 1st, why the hell would I want to play for your team if you gave me all this time to sign a contract with you guys and you did really nothing, right? If I'm Nylander, I would be pissed off if I haven't been signed on December 1st. And I know Nylander's been asking for too much money. I know that. But this is also on Kyle Dubas, because he's going to NHL games, just doing nothing, having fun. Your job is to sign this guy. And I get that they don't want to spend too much on him, because you guys have Matthews and Marner coming up after the season, and Marner's going to get a lot of money. The best thing is to trade him. Get your defenseman, get a good top 9 forward, like a guy like Vogler or Zykov or someone else like that. Get a pick, and there you go. Don't worry about this controversy anymore, Toronto. You waited too long. You waited too long. And guess what? You're still having success without Matthews. So adding Nylander probably wouldn't help much. And if you do sign Nylander, you're going to be at cap hell. So the best thing for him is to trade him, I feel like.
Here's what I think. I think Dubas, it seems like he could have done a lot better. I think he is going to be the winner by being more patient, because if you're Nylander, while I know the Leafs would miss him if he didn't play on their team, or miss whoever they could get for him if he doesn't play, I think it will hurt Nylander more if he doesn't play in the NHL than it will hurt the Leafs, because Nylander's career, even if it's just one season of playing against weaker competition, even one season of playing against weaker competition will hurt your career and hurt your development. And Nylander's still at the age where he's improving. So I think Nylander is going to back down and take a bridge deal for not very long. And they're punting on this problem because they're going to have it again when he's a restricted free agent again. And that time, I think he could get traded. But I think he's just going to sign some 2 or 3 year deal and see what happens. But we'll wait and see, and I'll probably post an update when he does sign, giving my thoughts on the Instagram account. And now we're almost done for today. A few final topics. So I want to briefly mention Carl Alsner, just how hilarious that whole situation is. Placed on waivers today, only in his second year after signing that giant contract with the Canadiens. So what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Carl, you should just stick with Washington, because when you signed that contract, you thought that the Capitals would be below the Canadiens in the standings when the Canadiens weren't even close to a playoffs. And Washington just won the Cup, so Alsner added an extra L to your last name to take 2 L's. And I understand why you wanted a big contract, but what was that, 5-6 year deal? It's too long, and now that contract's supposed to be worse. And I saw on Twitter a lot of trade suggestions, like Eriksson for Alsner, Lucic for Alsner, and I feel like, in my humble opinion, that Alsner's contract is worse than Lucic and Eriksson, because Alsner has been a healthy scratch a lot of the times. Sure, Eriksson and Lucic have done nothing when they came to a new city, well, except for Luigi, who had a 50-point campaign in his first year as an Oiler, but I think Anthony says no to those deals because Alzer wouldn't really do much in Edmonton. He'll be like a Sekera replacement. I don't think he's better than Sekera, but I don't think Sekera is better than Alzner. But it's just I don't think anyone claims him. Not even Arizona, and they have so much cap to work with still. So Alster, he's a bio candidate at the end of the season. Do you think he does get thought out? But Montreal, who needs more defensemen, spent so much money, so much investment in this guy, it just turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, no, it seems like Alzner is going to clear waivers and play in the AHL this year, and that's going to save them cap. And hopefully for Alzner, they buy him out because I think he can play in the NHL on a bad team and be an NHLer. But the Canadians have no reason to keep him in the NHL because as long as they keep him in the AHL, they have less of a cap hit. Now, he still gets all his money. I'm pretty sure, I think he still gets a lot of money, even if he's in the AHL. I know the cap hit is lowered. I'm not sure if the actual salary is lowered when he's waived, but no matter what, he's going to make a ton of money. So if that's, you get money when you can in the NHL because you could get injured and your career ends. So you just need to get as much money as you possibly can while you can. But he did miss out on winning a Stanley Cup, and he might not even play in the NHL ever again if another team won't pick him up. So
Actually, just another thing about Washington, that off season was just terrible for them. They lost Williams, they lost Shaedon Shergill, they lost Schmidt. They lost a lot of guys like Johansson when he traded, and he still won the cup.
Yeah.
The thing in my opinion is that what if that 2017 deep was so deep? In fact, that team is better than the 2018 roster. So, in my opinion, if there was no cap in the NHL, would that 2017 team still win the cup in 2018 though?
Yeah, maybe not because they might have re-signed a bunch of their guys who were better, but maybe they needed to have a big roster shakeup in order to get over the line and win the cup. We'll never know. But, yeah, that's definitely interesting. We're going to wrap up the podcast with one final segment. Teams we thought would be bad and who are doing good, and teams who we thought would be good and are doing bad. And I think it's pretty obvious one of the teams we're talking about, so we're just going to get them out of the way at the beginning. Currently, either at the top or second top or something, Buffalo Sabres. How are they doing it?
Well, Peter mentioned that I think like 4 or 5 of their victories came in OT or shootout, which I don't care about that.
Exactly.
You get the 2 points, and even if you lose those games, you still get 1 point. Yeah, I just think that what Jason Botterill did to that team was just outstanding. Got a guy extended, brought back Palmerville. He wanted to draft him down Lean. They got a guy, Carter Hutton, who could be a stable force in the net. They traded out O'Reilly, got some more young players in depth, and it's looking pretty good for the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm liking the way how they're playing. I was always rooting for Buffalo to play well, just like Arizona and Carolina, and they could be a dark horse in the playoffs, just like Edmonton was a few years ago. So if I'm the other team in the NHL, I'd watch out for Buffalo because I feel like they can go. I don't think they can go like Stanley Cup far, but they could probably make a deep run.
Yeah, I think this Sabres team, I think they'll make the playoffs based on how they're playing. I think they're going to drop a lot. I think they probably won't be one of the top 3 teams in the Atlantic, just because that's how it usually works for teams like this. I could be wrong. They could be like the Jets last year, where they do bad the year before and then do great. We don't know. But I think Skinner was probably the biggest addition. I mean, he was leading the league in goals until Line had that 5-goal game against St. Louis. But Carter Hutton was also huge. I mean, the Sabres haven't had consistent goaltending since Ryan Miller, so this is, a big step for them. And I just think it's great for their fans. For people who don't know, Buffalo is the best hockey market in the United States. They're one of the smallest cities in the NHL, but last season in the playoffs, they had the best ratings by percentage just after Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh had just won 2 Stanley Cups in a row and had a team in the playoffs. Buffalo had just finished last place, and they still had the second best ratings in the U.S. They have the best local ratings, maybe after Pittsburgh, that it's sort of going back and forth between Buffalo and Pittsburgh, but Buffalo had terrible teams and still had good ratings. So they are the best hockey city in the U.S. Probably, Minnesota is still probably the best hockey state, but Buffalo is definitely the best hockey city, so it's great for their fans that they're getting all this, a good team.
Oh, yeah.
And now we're going to talk about some teams we thought would be good, but actually suck. And who's the team you want to talk about?
Well, there's a lot of teams that we're expected to make the playoffs that aren't right now, but I feel like this year has been a lot of controversy because, once again, the Pacific sucks this year, and, there's a lot of things, but one team that was expected to make the playoffs and is doing really crappy is, of course, Pittsburgh. At one point, we were dead last in the Eastern Conference, and I don't know how you messed that up with guys like Malkin, Crosby, Kessel, Murray, Letang, and so on and so forth. Like, Pittsburgh, you shouldn't be this bad when you have guys like that. You just won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. You shouldn't be that bad, and I swear, if the Penguins get Jack Hughes.
Oh my god, I'll be so mad.
That
would be so unfair.
Malkin's probably going.
Oh, no way.
Not. I don't know.
No, they'll keep him, and then they'll go win 2 more cups. It would just be so unfair. Because here's the thing. The Penguins are still a really good team. Yeah. I think one of the guys you mentioned is the reason they're bad. Matt Murray, now he's injured, but he has been absolutely shockingly bad. And now I think it's fair to say, especially after the playoffs he had last year, that the decision to let Fleury go was the wrong move. While Murray played pretty good in the playoffs last year, Fleury, if the Penguins had him, they probably would have three-peated. And now Fleury is continuing to play good. Murray is injured, but he is not playing good. And while maybe Murray finds his game, I think letting Fleury go was a terrible move. And the Penguins are starting to pay for it right now. But
when Murray had that 2017 playoffs, I was thinking like we should have just let Fleury continue because he was the reason why they made it that far in 2017.
Well, it turned out to be the right decision then because Murray played very well in the Cup final, that Game 6 shutout. So it was the right decision then, but definitely it's looking like the wrong decision now. The last year, but again, it could be a cold streak. He did play all of 2018 and played pretty good, so we'll just have to see. And of course, the Penguins do go on slumps early in the year. That's no secret. The 2016, they were very bad, and then in December, they fired their coach, turned it around. The team I want to talk about is the Florida Panthers. They are ignored a lot by the media because of where they play. Probably after Dallas, they're one of the most undercovered teams in the NHL, but by national media. But I mean, it's ridiculous that they're this bad. I remember because I used to actually be a Panthers fan when I was a lot younger, and they had a rebuild 2010 third overall pick. They brought in Dale Talon. That was supposed to be a great rejuvenation of the franchise. And since he was hired, they've made the playoffs twice, and it's just been so disappointing. Luongo cannot stay healthy. Reimer was an absolute terrible decision to sign him to a contract. They keep getting injured, but, I mean, there's just something. I mean, people give them crap for having bad attendance, but if you're a Panthers fan, why would you attend any of their games? they've made the playoffs 4 times in their entire history, maybe 5, something like 4 or 5 times in their entire history. Their arena is nowhere near downtown Miami. When I visited, I went to one Panthers game. We flew into Miami Airport and then drove like 40 minutes. It's in the complete middle of the swamps. And why should you attend the game if they're so bad and they're never going to be good? It seems like. I mean, I thought they'd finally this year they would break through, but they're just playing badly, and I can't really explain it.
Well, Hoffman just had a 17-game point streak.
Yeah, exactly. And they still can't seem to. They're still last in the conference.
They have, in my opinion, they have one of the most talented top 9s. Hoffman, Davidoff, Dukes, Bruno, Barkov, Trocheck. That's a pretty good top 9. And you guys said you have a good, I wouldn't say great defense, but you have a good defense in Yandel. You have Ekblad, drafted first overall. And, they need consistent goaltending. Like, when Luongo goes down, Reimer needs to play on his head. I feel like he did that at the end of last year because they went on a tear at the end. And,
but Luongo came back for part of that.
Yeah. And they missed the playoffs by 1 point in the East. If they're in the West, they would have made the playoffs. And I think everybody thought that bringing Hoffman would help this team, and it's dragging them down. So, I feel like that their coach needs to pay the price as well.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it's time to fire the GM as well. I think they got a clean house. Their players are good. They should be better. It's just tough, man. It's tough. I'm a Sharks fan. But I mean, I still like the Panthers, and it would be really tough if I was a fan of that team. They just can't improve, and I don't know what's gonna happen. Maybe they'll improve this year. I hope they do, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
I just want to add in on the Hextall thing, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering if does Shirley get fired after seeing this? I don't want Hextall in my organization, but do you think that after seeing this and seeing Philly and them to the same record, and I'm just more disappointed because he has the best player in the world doing this well, do you think Shirley gets fired after seeing Hextall get fired?
I think he should. I don't think he will, because I think if they planned on firing him, they would have done it already. Once someone made an interesting point, the Flyers and Oilers have the exact same record when he was fired. So let's, if Hextall gets fired for that, maybe Shirley should. I don't know. We'll see. I think he definitely should. But it's the Oilers, so you don't know. But
do you want to talk about the Spooner Pierce trade before we go?
Yeah, I guess we can briefly bring it up. It's sort of old news at this point, but the Kings the Kings traded Pearson for Hagelin. I think it's not a great move for them because Hagelin's old and they should really be rebuilding. And then the Oilers traded Strome for Spooner. I think it seems like both Stromes have been busts. And Spooner, at least he seems to have some sort of promise left. So I think that's pretty, But there again, those are sort of old news. So I think we don't need to get into them.
Yeah.
All right, and that's going to do it for the podcast today. Coming in just around 50 minutes, which is pretty good length for a podcast episode. Not too long. And that's going to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to check out Shaedon's Instagram account for Oilers updates. And check out my Instagram account for the occasional Sharks updates, though I have been busy, so I haven't been able to update as much as I'd like. Subscribe to the channel for more podcasts, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.